Alright everyone, welcome back to Unlimited Blade Works.
あなたがイメージしたものは折れない剣。それが折れてしまった時点で白の中の折れない剣と今折れてしまった剣は別物になる。あなたと現実、その計りが崩れてしまうから。
So if I sum it up.
よし。つまり俺は折れない剣を想像して投影した。けど実際に投影した剣は戦闘中に折れてしまった。その時点で俺自身がその剣をなんだよ実際は折れちまうじゃないかこの剣と否定してしまって、結果として投影したものは消えるってことか。そのイメージの齟齬によって。
冴えてるじゃない。ええ、つまりはそういうこと。あなたはアーチャーの剣を投影した。あなたの中であれがどんな位置づけだったかは知らないけど、シロ自身はクズキの攻撃で壊れるような剣をイメージしてはいなかった。けど実際に剣は破壊されてしまった。その時点であなたはその剣をこんなのはアーチャーの剣じゃないと思ってしまったのよ。
He did think that, so yeah.
で、作り上げられた投影は術者の否定によって存在強度を失い、元の空想に戻ったってわけ。
I see. Even projected weapons can break. But it's not the enemy but you who make them disappear from this world. When the difference between the reality and the image becomes too large to be reconciled, the projected weapon disappears. It's because the one who projected the weapon stops believing in the image.
わかった？だから投影魔術はまず設計図から入るの。あとは材質と性質、歴史なんかも考慮すべきね。そのあたりから固めていけば、多少現実でイメージと違ってもすぐに消えるなんてことはないでしょ？
それならなぜそれを作る気になったのかってのが最初じゃないか？材料と技法だけじゃダメだ。今日の夕飯だってまず遠坂が和風が食べたいって言ったから始まっただろ。なら創作する上での発端から始めないと。
Oh, Tosaka stunned. Tosaka stares at me. I drink tea and tilt my head in wonder.
まあ、なんでこんな話になったんだっけ？
そういえばそうよね。私たち確か今後の作戦を話し合ってたような。
Oh yeah, we were talking about what our course of action should be.
シロ、本格的に投影魔術をやってみない？
When Tosaka derailed the conversation.
思い出した。不確定な要素に希望を持っちゃうぐらい行き詰まってたんだっけ？
まあそうだな。第一、俺の投影なんて剣を作れる程度だ。それも今まで役に立ったことなんてないんだから大した戦力にならないだろ
う。Oh, she's looking at me with those eyes again. I wonder why. She always makes that face when we talk about projection magic.
まあいいわ。もう一度状況を確認しましょう。目下のところ敵はキャスター。あいつだけなら大したことはないけど、白兵戦に長けたマスターとあっち側についたアーチャーに守られている限り手は出せないわ。加えてセイバーが操られるのも時間の問題。状況は刻一刻と悪くなっていくわけだけど。
ああ、けどアーチャーはともかくセイバーはまだキャスターの自由にはなっていない。それが勝機といえば勝機だろう。セイバーが完全にキャスターの軍門に下ったら、それこそ俺たちに勝ち目はない。
I can't let that happen. She told me to run. She told me as she cried. So for Saber's sake, I can't let Casta do as she wishes.
そういうことね。それじゃあ意見のある人は挙手。シロ、なんかいいアイデアある
？An idea that will break the current deadlock. If there is a way to oppose Caster, it is... I don't have any plans, but just fight them head on. We can't fight them head on. Is there a secret passage in the church? We can't do this by ourselves. We'll cooperate with masters. Alright, first and foremost. I used up all the save on this page, by the way. That's crazy. Alright, let's go here. I think, obviously, this is not the best of choices. It's between this one and this one. I think we'll cooperate with other masters. They aren't opponents that we can take on by ourselves. There are 3 enemies. Then we'll need at least one more on our side. Then there are limited possibilities. People who are Magi and have a reason to fight against Caster. It will be the other masters.
トサカ、怒らないで聞いてくれ。その、他のマスターとは協力できないかな。
いいわ。その心は？口にするからには何か算段があるんでしょ？
いや、そういうわけじゃないんだが、今のキャスターの状態は他のマスターにとっても無視できないだろう。なら今回だけってことで手を組めるかもしれないと思って。
ええ、実は私も同じことを考えてた。てっきり白を反対すると思ってたから黙ってたんだけどね。
She says so unenthusiastically. She must not like the idea, but she must know that's the only option we have.
となると、残るマスターは2人。ランサーのマスターとバーサーカーのマスターね。ランサーのマスターは不明のままだから交渉のしようもないけど、バーサーカーのマスターであるイリアスフィールなら可能性はあるかもしれない。
Berserker's Master. The white girl and the statue-like giant I met on the night when it all began. She sounded dangerous, but I don't think she's cruel.
そうだな。あの子なら話し合いに応じてくれそうだ。見返りに無茶な条件も出してきそうにないし。
バカ。シローにとっちゃあいつが一番ヤバいのよ。あいつ、初めっからシローしか見てなかったもの。私はともかく、あんたはどんな目に遭わされるか分かったもんじゃないわよ。
なんだよそれ。俺はあの子と一度しか会ってないんだ。そんなことになるわけないだろう。脅かしっこなしだぞお父さん。
そんなことになったら交渉なんて破棄に決まってるじゃない。バカ。
Then, Tosaka averts her gaze and gulps down her tea.
けど、今はイリアスフィールにかけるしかないわね。キャスターの正体がアーチャーの言う通りなら、間違いなくバーサーカーは天敵だし。何しろ生前の知り合いだもの。キャスターの手口なんて知り尽くしてるでしょ。バーサーカーなら、キャスターとアーチャーが同時に攻めてきても追い返せる。私たちはその間にクズキ一人を攻略すればいい。
そりゃ理想論だけど。父さん、キャスターはバーサーカーと関係があるのか？
ええ、アーチャーが言ってたのよ。バーサーカーの正体はヘラクレスだって。キャスターが本当にあの希代の魔女なら、アルゴーセンつながりでバーサーカーとは面識があるかもしれない。私が綺麗に苦手意識を持つのと同じ。世の中にはね、どうしたって苦手なやつっているもんなのよ。
Okay, but I'm sure everyone would dislike that priest.
じゃあ決まりだな。けどどうやってあの子を見つけようか。あれ以来出てこないけど、あれだけの魔力を持ってるなら隠れていようと見つけ出せるだろ。なのに見つからないってことはこの町にはいないってことじゃないのか。
でしょうね。イリアスフィールはずっと遠くから聖杯戦争を眺めて楽しんでるんでしょ。
ずっと遠く？キャスターみたいに竜道寺から町を監視してるのか？
さあ、けどどこにいるかは見当がつく。昔父さんから聞いたことがあるのよ。アインツベルンは郊外の森に別荘を持ってるって。
She says so with a tense voice. A villa inside the forest. Tosaka's expression tells me how dangerous the place is. I go back to my room and lie down. Drowsiness fills my body as soon as I do. I stare at the dark ceiling. We're going to Ilias Ville's hideout tomorrow. No matter what kind of negotiations take place, it's obvious that we'll need energy. Tosaka said we wouldn't get good results with tired bodies, so we decided to head out after we sleep.
夜明けまであと5時間。そうなったら、あの子と話し合いをしなくちゃならない。
The young master that appeared on the night I became a master. If Saber is a servant excellent in all aspects, Berserker is a servant specialized in battle. There's no servant that can match Berserker in simple combat.
そんな相手と、どう話し合えばいい？
Saying it makes me believe it's impossible to negotiate with them. But strangely, I don't feel any uneasiness. I think Ilya will understand us if we talk to her. Just like Tosaka, she'll classify enemy and ally as a magus, but I think she's a proper girl with all that aside.
まったく、まだ話したこともないくせに、希望的観測にも程がある。
You're not that far off. Remember, you were taught you were with her in the Fate route. You just don't know it. I bet he would scorn me, saying that it's a convenient fantasy. But what's wrong with believing? Is it wrong to have hope for someone you haven't met yet? I don't believe so. I realize that I'm gritting my teeth. The man who told me to drown in my ideals and die betrayed Tosaka in front of me. A guy with that much trust and power switched his allegiance so easily. My mind darkens. No, it's freezing. My head cools down thinking about what he did. I'm angry. I can't forgive him for betraying Tosaka. I can't forgive the fact that he cast away his partner. I will swear here, even if that may have been the very best action, and even if it turns out that it was the right choice to survive, I will never do something like that. His actions have been getting on my nerves. He told me not to talk about ideals. I opposed him when he told me I cannot save everybody, but I agreed with his words somewhere inside of me. His words are correct. Superhero my father talked about is just a fantasy, and I accepted the fact that I would have to become like him to get as close to the ideal as possible. Not wanting to do so, I openly denied the idea even though I accepted it in my mind. But this isn't on such a level. I can't approve of him. I can't approve of his action no matter what the circumstances may be. I won't be able to keep standing if I approve of him.
だから、お前には負けられない。
My words do not disperse into the darkness but stay in the room. A few hours until dawn. I keep repeating those words even in my sleep. The 12th of February. 13 versus Berserker. Interlude. She is alone with her thoughts in the darkness. It has been a day since she attacked the church and killed the priest. It has been a day since she declared that she can find it, no matter where it may be hidden, if it exists. It may not be the case for other servants, but there is no way someone versed in magic like her would not be able to find a relic as holy as the Holy Grail. Then there's only one answer. The Holy Grail was never hidden in this church to begin with. She sighs and puts her fingers on her temple. When she closes her eyes, heavy darkness assails her body. No, it's just a scream. It's not coming from the outside. The scream comes from her body and mind, telling her that her fatigue is at the limit. It has been a month since she was summoned. Since then, she has done her best to win. Her master is an ordinary person without a magic circuit, and she is the weakest of the servants. To make up for that, she abused forbidden magic. Collection from the people, the magical string she placed throughout the town in the control of the ley line using sacrifices. These are all reasons why she was called a witch during her life, but she has never used them before. She should have never used them, and she did not intend to do the forbidden. So, why did she end up using them for a meaningless conflict like this? She became a heroic spirit to take revenge, but she also knows it is meaningless to use the skills that labeled her a witch. She only uses trivial magic. She only created disasters that cause people to destroy themselves with their own greed. I wouldn't call her magic right now trivial. They're pretty deadly. That was all the revenge she could manage, so what caused her to stray from her path so much?
すべては聖杯のため。あらゆる望みを叶える聖杯なのだから、気が違うのは当然です。
That is a lie. She knows the true identity of the Holy Grail. She already knows what the thing is and why servants like her are summoned. It is true that most wishes can be granted using the Holy Grail that appears in this town. It will allow her to stay in this world with physical form, and it will allow her to start a second life as a human. But
バカね。そんなことに何の意味があるというの。
saying so, she closes her eyes. She empties her mind. For now, she lets her guard down and rests her mind. She hears the sound of rain. It was a night without moonlight. The surroundings were pitch black, and she wandered with an empty mind. That's where she met him, with blood-stained body and frozen limbs. A chance meeting that was more miraculous than any miracle. It was the mountain where the Ryudo temple is located. Falling rain. She was stumbling aimlessly to the dense forest. She left behind a trail of blood. In her hand was a dagger that breaks all contracts. Her purple robe was wet with rain, and her limbs had turned white from the winter cold. She staggered around holding onto the trees for support. She walked on, dirtied with mud, her breath ragged, reaching out her hand as if begging for help. She did not look like her usual self, filled with cool composure. No, even the amount of magical energy was unlike her. She was exhausted. She only had a handful of power left. For a servant, magical energy is like a lifeline that allows them to stay in this world. But that was all lost. No magical energy was coming from her master. But that was only natural. She had just killed her own master. That was the cause of her exhaustion. She, servant Caster, was about to disappear alone as compensation for obtaining freedom. A dry laugh. It is funny that her body was not able to maintain itself and that she betrayed her vulgar master. Moreover, it's quite amusing to see how badly she had underestimated the relationship between servant and master. She had done well. Her master was a legitimate magus. He was in his 30s, had a medium build, and had a few noteworthy characteristics. He had no will to fight but dreamed of victory. He was a man that only waited for the other masters to kill each other. The man had not trusted Caster. He treated Caster coldly as she was a superior magus, and he insulted her for being inferior to other servants. She gave up on him after a few days. She acted as an obedient servant and filled the man's conceit. In short, she made him use his command spells for meaningless things. She told him he did not need the command spells. She made him believe that she would be faithful to her master even without the command spell. It was his fault for believing in her. The master used his third command spell for a meaningless thing and was killed by Caster at that moment. It was easy. She did not like the fact that the contract with him still existed, so she killed him using the rule breaker. So this is probably how she met Kuzuki, right? But she had made a mistake. Servants exist using the supply of magical energy provided by their masters. But not just magical energy. Servants are only allowed to exist in this age by being connected with people of this age. In other words, to lose one's master, the passport to this age means being forced to return to the outside world. But she would not normally be this exhausted. This was the curse her master had left her. Her master did not approve of her, as she was better magus than he was. Therefore, he limited her magical energy to be always below his level. The magical energy level of a mere human cannot keep a servant in this world. She would normally be able to stay in this world for 2 days after losing her master. But now it was different. Her magical energy was drastically decreasing with every second, and the end was near. Probably a few more minutes. She would disappear if she could not find her next master in that time. She would disappear before she could fight, unable to do anything. She would be a pitiful servant summoned only to be trampled upon. It was vexing. It was vexing, but it wasn't anything out of the ordinary. See, honestly, if it wasn't for, I understand her backstory a little bit, and I feel for her. I would actually like Caster if she didn't act the way she did in this whole storyline. You know, if she wasn't the character she was, if she didn't have such a hateful personality, I would like her a lot more. She'd be more palatable for me. But because of what she did with Taiga, what she's doing right now with punishing Saber, it's a lost cause. I don't know. It had always been like this for her. She was treated unreasonably like this all the time. She was always used as a tool, and she was never understood by anyone. Yes, her life was always controlled by someone else. Her mind was destroyed at a young age to save a hero chosen by the gods. Just for the sake of a hero, the goddess of beauty happened to favor. The gods cursed her to blindly love a man she had never seen. The girl betrayed her father, and she was even forced to betray her own country. There is no memory after that. After everything was over, the girl who was a princess was in an unfamiliar country. A girl that betrayed her father, the king, for a man. A witch that cut apart her own brother and threw the pieces into the sea to escape her native country. And the man who wanted it done cast her aside in order to become king, saying he could not marry a witch. Ugh, that's something you don't want to hear. She was controlled and taken to an unknown country, was marked as a witch, and the only person she could rely on threw her away. That is her origin. There is nothing people can blame her for, and people around her were aware of that. But still, people continued to demand for her to be a witch. An evil to protect the king. An evil to be on the receiving end of evil superstitions. People wanted a convenient scapegoat that they could blame for any disaster. This pattern has never changed. People demand easily understandable evil to reassure themselves of their own goodness. In that regard, she was the perfect sacrifice. The father she could rely on was in a distant country. Nobody defended her, and people gladly blamed her for all the ugly things in their world. Now imagine she was summoned and had like a master like Shiro. You know, just a good person. You know, a good-natured person. I wonder how she would have been, and if she... You know what? She probably would have succeeded in getting the Holy Grail War. Winning the Holy Grail, for that matter. Just because she wouldn't be so vindictive, and it would cause her to have certain lapses in judgment. They decide that every ugliness was the witch's doing, that they are poor, that they hate others, that humans are ugly, and even that people die when they are killed. See? She agrees. So she merely accepted it. Since she could not only live as a witch, she decided to live like a witch. She swore to show them the ugliness of the wishes they demanded of her. If people do not know their ugliness, so be it. They can stay ignorant, go to hell for their own crimes, and suffer forever. They won't be able to get out of hell. They'll suffer forever as criminals because they do not know what crimes they have committed. That is the reason for existence she imposed on herself. That is the only role people gave to the girl, to the one called the witch who never had a free will. But nobody actually wished for such a thing. The same goes for her as well. She seeks revenge against her will without having any wish for herself. Yes, until she met with this stranger. A rustling sound. She peered ahead even though she was barely able to stand. It's midnight. Who could possibly come to the forest at this time?
そこで何をしている?
Ah. Their meeting. There was a heavy voice. She did not have the composure to check who it was. She just thought it was all over. She had no power to use magic. Her purple robe might have looked like a coat, but she was covered in blood. A woman covered in blood was hiding in the rain. It is obvious what such a person did. Anyone would run away first. What would they do after that? They would either call the police or pretend that they hadn't seen it. It did not matter to her, as she could no longer move. That caused the last of her spirit to give out. Her last moment, it was cold and lonely, just as it was at the end of her true lifetime. Or so she thought. When she regained consciousness, she was in that place. In front of her is that man. The man who she met in the woods.
起きたか? 事情は話せるか?
Those were his first words. When she watched the man with blank amazement.
迷惑だったのなら帰るがいい. 忘れろというなら 忘れよ
The tone of his voice never changed. Okay, Kuzuki has been a good master to her, though. He hasn't betrayed her, but his mindset is a little bit different from regular people because he's kind of, I believe, like an assassin of sorts, I believe. That was her first encounter with her master, Kuzuki Soichiro. Kuzuki was a strange man. Should he be called a ghost? He had no reason to live, but had no reason to die. He was just there, and since he existed, he followed whatever whim took him. He has no self. That was her first impression of him, and she thought it would be easy to turn him into a puppet. She grew to realize that the thought was a mistake. Kuzuki Soichiro does not have a past. He had no self because he has no past, but it does not mean Kuzuki Soichiro is empty. Kuzuki was a sincere man. He easily accepted her when she told him that she wanted him to be her master and when she told him about her true identity.
このような話を信じるのですか？
今のは嘘なのか
He accepted it after she told him it was the truth. And the most amazing part was the night they met. As she was about to disappear, she told Kuzuki to lay with her. After making a difficult expression, let me ask, do you want it rough or gentle? After that, he made love to her without waiting for her reply. To put it his way, they had sex before the Buddha. It seemed rough like Asura, but it also seemed gentle like Bodhisattva. Either way, the contract was completed. She obtained a new master, was able to stay in this world, and returned to her role of being a witch. She still considers it to be a miracle. She would have disappeared before she woke up if she wasn't taken to the Ryudo Temple. The Ryudo Temple is a demonic place for servants, but it is a perfect summoning place once inside. As the Ryudo Temple is surrounded by a boundary field, it is suited for keeping anything inhuman. She was able to remain without disappearing because she was brought to the Ryudo Temple. Had it been any place else, she would have vanished after being taken there. As a result, she obtained the best ley line and the best protection. She easily occupied the Ryudo Temple, figured out the mechanism of the Holy Grail, and summoned the assassin as the fifth servant. But such things are trivial matters. She was certainly lucky on that night. Many miracles saved her, and she is now on the verge of victory. But they do not deserve thanks. She would have been fine with it even if those miracles had not occurred. There is only one important fact, a very small matter that is trivial for anyone else. For her, the fact that she was able to meet Kuzuki Soichiro is a miracle beyond belief. But it's not going well. No, she feels that everything she does is not going well. Her master would not be delighted with what she did. He has never had an interest in the Holy Grail. She would do her best to grant any wish of his, but Kuzuki Soichiro has none. A one-sided relationship. They do not get along well. It is not going well at all.
ミイラ取りがミイラになったか。希代の魔女というのも案外脆いものだな。
She turns to the intruder. It is not her master that is standing there. It is the knight in red, Archer, with his true identity still unknown.
アーチャー、あなたには外の見張りを任せたはずですが。
ああ、それがな、ざっと見たところ、周囲に敵という敵がいない。退屈を持て余してね、中の様子を見に来たのだ。
それはそうでしょうね。私たちの敵はバーサーカーだけよ。それもセイバーさえ陥落すればこちらから打って出るだけ。あなたが私たちに寝返った時点でもう敵なんていないのよ。あなたもそれが分かっていたからこそこちらに着いたのではなくて。
さてどうかな。私はあのマスターと契約を切りたかっただけとは思わないか。あのマスター以外なら契約者は誰でもよかったと。
There is some truth in Archer's words, but what does it mean? Archer had no intention of betraying, but betrayed his master only because he wanted to break his contract with Tosaka Rin?
そう。小娘のおもりはごめんということ。確かに私たちサーバントは総じてマスターに不満を持つわ。あなたが愛想を尽かすのも当然でしょうね。
いや、召喚者として彼女は完璧だった。ただ少しばかり狂いが生じただけだ。